Okay, this is about our divisive little weasel of a president and his immutable, repugnant campaign to insist one group of Americans needs to hate another. I want to focus on one in particular, that being the poor should hate the rich. Oh, there are others for sure. Liberals should hate conservatives because they want old people to die and suffer. As if any politician would embrace such an idiotic ideology. Democrats should hate Republicans because they're the party of no. Even though it's Harry Reid who refused to bring more than 25 bills to the Senate floor because he actually knows some of them are going to pass. The left should hate the right because they want to destroy the environment, as if we have a whole other little environment that we're keeping to ourselves someplace. God, there's a dozen examples of this hate-filled little slug uses to foment hate in his base. But for this segment, I'm focusing on why he wants the poor to hate the rich. Taxes. Plain and simple. Make the rich pay more just because, gee, that it's fair. Fair? What the hell makes it fair? When fully 50% of Americans pay no federal taxes at all, what's fair about those who already pay more than anyone else paying more? There's an example that's been used more than once that shows how ridiculous this whole process really is. That's using students' GPAs, their grade point average. I've seen a number of stories where people go onto campuses and find students with 4.0 grade point averages and ask if they'd be willing to share it with those with 2.0s. So it's more fair for everyone. And of course, in every case they say, no. Well, of course they're going to say no. At this point in their lives, their GPA represents their wealth. A GPA is a student's currency. It's like their 401k or their stock portfolio. It represents their future. It's the difference between Harvard and Yale, or a community college, or a prestigious New York law firm, or a private practice as a divorce lawyer in Podunk Junction. The reality is they worked really hard for that 4.0 GPA. Hours and hours of late nights at the library, noses buried in books, endless days transcribing lecture notes, weekends doing research. That 4.0 GPA is their ticket to a better future, and they work to earn it. Who in their right mind would give any of that away to someone of lesser determination? See, that's the key. There will always be those of lesser determination. And there will always be those willing to exploit those people. Convince them that it's not hard work and determination as much as life just being unfair. And that they've just been tossed the scraps of life by those who are simply luckier. And if they want their lot to improve, then those lucky ones need to share their wealth. Yeah, I know, it's one of the dumber arguments of the left, and it boggles the mind that so many people buy into it. That is until they're confronted with their own wealth. That being, in the case of students, their hard-earned GPAs. I mean, when they actually look at it from a personal point of view, it suddenly becomes completely unfair. And the reality of actual life and the real world starts to kick in. What if they were forced to give half of their hard-earned GPA and give it to the college to distribute it to those with 2.0s? Think you'd see a few students transferring to other colleges? I pretty much think that goes without saying. Then what happens? Now, nobody in that college is receiving 4.0s because all of them have left for someplace else. And now not only isn't there anything left to distribute, but most of the professors and staff who actually believe in actual education have left because the college can't produce anybody anymore that enhances the campus's image, or brings in funds, or new students, or at least students willing to work for their future. Who's going to do that if half of everything you work for is going to be taken away? Who wants to attend a college that can't produce a successful doctor or lawyer, an engineer with a drive and insight, with new and innovative ideas for the future? Add to that, due to the best and brightest fleeing to a more friendly environment, and the loss of that revenues, those left will likely not only be paying higher tuition, their prospects for a better future will also dry up. They're not likely to find a job fair with the likes of an IBM, Monsanto, Hewlett-Packard, or GM. They'll be farming talent where those with 4.0s emigrated. My point is, fair is a myth, at least in the context of the tripe this president spreads. This country was founded with the idea that anyone who was willing to apply themselves, work hard, obey the rules, and just show up every day gets to make their own fairness. They get to succeed or fail on their own merit, and they get to reap the rewards of that hard work. If, by that hard work, they've created the kind of luck Bill Gates did, they get to choose to share that good fortune with those they feel deserving. That's the key. They get to choose. And if you look at those who have created that kind of wealth for themselves, they invariably tend to be very generous with it. From a building or medical center at the same college where they got their start, to financial support for small startup businesses and 100 other charitable works. America has been the most generous entity in history. And Americans have and still are the most generous people on the face of the earth, in spite of this administration's pronouncements to the contrary. Now, this president is reported to have a war chest for the upcoming election of more than $1 billion. So if he truly believes the crap he spews about fairness, and that those with should be required to give to those without, then I suggest he take maybe a third of that, and make a few contributions to, say, Gingrich or Bachmann or Romney or Ron Paul, for that matter. After all, we all want fair elections, don't we? What could be more fair than an equal economic political environment? To be sure that everyone can afford a campaign on an equal and fair footing. Come on, Barry, it's only fair, right? Well, like I said, in the context of the tripe this president spreads, fairness is a myth, used to exploit those with lesser determination. For those of us without wealth, and at least 2 brain cells to rub together, we understand that we've made our own luck. We know our shortfalls, and even if we're quite content with our lives, we understand that we could have done better, and that the opportunity was always there for that to happen. That it didn't is due entirely to the choices we made. It's not someone else's fault because they did do better, and it's not their responsibility to ensure that our lives are enhanced just because theirs are. God, it's only common sense.